It's a crying shame when a band has an amazing name, but the music just sucks. It's also a total heartbreak when the members are super cool, but the music sucks. So today, I'm gonna talk about those bands, the bands I wish didn't suck. Hey ladies, how's it going? Dan Frampton here. I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another video. But before we get going, how's it bet you toss me a quick like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already? If you're feeling particularly generous, you can toss a super thanks or join the channel. Okay, with all of that cringe housekeeping out of the way, let's hit the pit. Oh yeah, we're going to be playing some Donkey Kong 2 and watching some End It on Hate 5.6. Okay, so not every band on this list is going to be a band that I necessarily hate per se, because this band that I'm going to mention here at the number 10 slot, you know, they're a legendary band. Everybody in the punk scene, especially like the skate punk scene, have a lot of respect for these guys because they're pioneers, and of course I can't take any of that ever away from them. You know I'm talking about Bad Religion. There is nothing exciting about a Bad Religion song. I'm sorry if you're gonna cancel me over that, but Bad Religion kind of just reminds me of what scarecrows, literal scarecrows would sound like if scarecrows were music. They're just like piles of straw with sticks up their ass in the middle of the field, scaring away the crows. And in this case, the crows are emo kids. Okay, the next band I want to mention might not be a band that everybody has heard of, but I have definitely made a video about them here on the channel, and that's going to be a band called Life Ruiner. Now, Life Ruiner happens to be a pretty sick name for a band. Life Ruiner? Are you kidding me? That is so sick. But do you know what's not sick? The lead singer, the vocalist, Johnny O'Callahan. Even though that's an amazing name. Johnny O'Callahan, the frontman in a hardcore band, a straight edge militant hardcore band called Life Ruiner. All of that sounds amazing. I want to love that. And their early work was intentionally bad to kind of make fun of posy hardcore people by being a negative hardcore band. You know, that was their whole gimmick. And then after a while, they're like, no, we're going to take ourselves seriously and be kind of like a metalcore band. And then they did that, and people were kind of fucking with them for a little bit. They're like, you know what, Life Ruiner's not so bad. They're kind of writing some pretty sick tunes. Jonathan O'Callahan's looking pretty sick with his big ass stretched ears. They're a legitimate band. But then of course, the allegations came out, and he's apparently a very dangerous person to be around in party type scenarios or even at shows, you know? So all of that is not sick. All of that I wish didn't happen, which is why that's a perfect example of a band I wish was better. Okay, the next band I'm gonna talk about is a legacy band. It's gonna be one of the first punk bands. Everybody knows we're talking about the Sex Pistols. Now the Sex Pistols weren't really a band, were they? They were more of like Malcolm McLaren's silly little art project. Him and Vivienne Westwood, a fashion designer, were like, no, we're gonna start a revolution. But in order to amplify the message of that revolution, we're gonna start a little punk group. Because you know what? Malcolm McLaren used to be the manager of a little group called the New York Dolls, so he was just gonna do it all over again in London with these other guys that couldn't play music, and they were just gonna be a bunch of punks wearing a bunch of anarchy shirts. They were all raging against mainstream culture while doing the exact same thing with a slightly different aesthetic. And you know, because of how calculated everything with the Sex Pistols was, it just kind of proved that aesthetics and marketing trumps actual music and talent any day of the week. You know, that's kind of the sad reality that the Sex Pistols prove. But the Sex Pistols did help create an aesthetic, an entire vibe that still lives on to this day. So again, you can't take any of that fucking shit away from them, even though I'd really love to. Oh, you fucking kidding me? Now the next band I wish didn't suck is Green Day. Now Green Day is famous for helping break pop punk, or punk in general really, onto the mainstream in 1994. 1994 is the big year. Green Day is the big band. You know, it's a whole legacy thing. That's why I'm talking about Green Day right after the Sex Pistols, because they're the same sort of band at different times of life. But Green Day's aesthetic of apathy and of not caring really did suit the vibe of the 90s. Nirvana just finished being a thing. It was a very tragic thing, and the world needed an alternative culture that wasn't going to remind them of that. And this whole new punk thing, which grunge was inspired by to begin with anyway, but just got there first somehow, And I guess that was just based on all the charisma of Kurt Cobain. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. They bridged the gap between grunge and nu metal and really played a pivotal role in the development of rock and roll music through the fucking entirety of the 90s. And in the 90s, I loved Green Day. I loved all of their efforts, all of their music videos, all of their records. But as soon as American Idiot came out, that's when I realized, oh no, Green Day sucks. And they have not recovered since those days. This next entry, I'm sure, is not going to surprise anybody because I talked about this band earlier on in the year, but that's 25 to Life and Rick to Life. Rick to Life is a very cringy guy who's done a whole lot of cringy things and have ruined any goodwill that his band have ever had. I don't even want to waste too much more time talking about 25 to Life, but they have a great name, which is amazing, 25 to Life, perfect hardcore name. And the fact that he named himself Rick to Life doesn't make any sense and is just beautifully poetic. You know what I mean? I love all of that. And because the band sucks so much and the name is so great, I'm devastated, absolutely heartbroken, but I need to move on. Okay, number 5, we're gonna have to go back a couple years here, okay? And that's gonna be because two people that I really liked in the late 90s came together for a thing. And that thing at the time I thought was pretty good. And we're talking about Travis Barker before he was all over everything, and Tim Armstrong of Rancid fame. And that project was The Transplants, and I mistakenly enjoyed it back in the day. I've re-listened to it recently, and my God, it does not hold up. This thing sounds like absolute dog piss. I did not enjoy this record, not one bit. You guys might be mostly familiar with that shampoo commercial that they licensed one of their songs for. And when that happened, that's when I knew back in the day, oh my God, I have made a tragic error in liking this band. These guys actually totally suck. Now here's another band that I wish was better. Okay, that's another band that I've talked about on the channel, and that is gonna be a little group known once as Every Time I Die. They have recently broken up because they couldn't find, any common ground to, like each other as bandmates or whatever. And I don't care about any of that. That's whatever. What I liked about them was some of the riffs. Yeah, some of the badass riffs were really, really sick, and I really wanted to get into the record. But after listening to the first riff that would open up the record, I'd be like, all right, let's go. This is gonna be so sweet. And I'd listen to the record, and it would suck donkey balls. I didn't like their name, I never liked their name, but their riffs were really good. And then that guy who plays the riffs, Andy Complains, is also a wrestler, and I really enjoy wrestling, okay? And I actually enjoy him as a wrestler. He's a very good, believable, fun wrestler to watch. He's known as The Butcher in AEW, but none of that is gonna be enough for me to enjoy this band. I don't enjoy this band. I wish I did. Now this next cut might be a little bit of a deep cut. It might be a bit of a deep Canadian cut. I'm not sure, but if you guys have ever heard of the band Sumo Psycho, you'd know that their aesthetic is really, really good. And their story is super cool. I'm gonna tell that story to you here really quick. So like in the early 2000s, there was a pop star, okay? And that pop star was known as Sky Sweetnam. And that Sky Sweetnam girl had a song called Billy Shakespeare about how she didn't want to go to school to learn about Billy Shakespeare. And it was very cringy, and it was very funny, and it was one of those so bad it's bad kind of Rebecca Black moments before Rebecca Black on actual television back in the day, if you remember television. But anyway, in like the 2010s or whatever, this Sky Sweetnam character dyed her hair all these crazy colors, started a nu metal band with her boyfriend, I guess, called themselves Sumo Psycho, renamed herself Sever, I think, and wrote really awful generic nu metal songs that just totally suck. And they kind of had this creator house approach before a creator house thing was a thing, because they would do all their design work in-house, and it really felt more like a startup rather than a band. And it was kind of fun to follow for the first little bit, if I'm being honest with you, because it was a kind of a unique approach to this new age of Facebook digital marketing or whatever. And it was kind of, a bit ahead of its time. Was it any good? No. But the aesthetic was amazing and the videos were great. It's just the music sucked the assholes out of assholes. We're getting into the top 2. These are some really juicy picks. A band that I used to actually really fuck with as a teenager, But listening to them as an adult, I'm realizing their record that I listened to a lot as a kid isn't really that great of a record. And that is from a band known as Powerman 5000. Now the front man of this band, his name is Spider, and he happens to be Rob Zombie's little brother. So he's like, Rob, you're really cool. You make like these really, really neat horror movies and your songs are really cool. And I want to do that too, but I'm not going to do horror movie stuff. I'm going to do sci-fi stuff. And I'm not going to do that as a movie thing. I'm just going to do that as my music thing and call it Powerman 5000. And it always had this like little brother energy about it. But to me, as a kid, I found it so electric. I found his charisma so magnetizing, you know? But as an adult, I find his charisma polarizing. And it's not that he's like super cringy or whatever, and it's not that he makes bad stuff, and it's not that he's a bad person in any way, shape, or form. I wouldn't be able to claim that. All I'm saying is the name, Powerman 5000, amazing. The story of wanting to be a sci-fi version of his older brother, just like really, really sick if he didn't like come across so cringy about it. Again, the aesthetic was there from a so bad it's good kind of perspective, but not enough to really hold an audience for a long time, and it didn't age well. It's more of a lol cow in the world of nu metal these days. That was number 2. Okay, at the top of the list, I'm just gonna say it. The name of the band is Fozzy. If you know, you know, but I'm gonna explain it to you a little bit here. Fozzy is the band of Chris Jericho. You heard that right. Professional wrestler, Le Champion, the wizard himself, Chris Jericho. And apparently, he was a musician before he was a wrestler. He learned how to play the bass before he learned the collar and elbow, okay? So don't say that he's just trying to like use his wrestling fame to become a little rock star. He's always wanted to be a rock star, he'll tell you. So he's a rock star, he's a wrestler, he's a podcaster, he's an actor, he's an everything-er. But the only problem with all that is the music stuff isn't good. He's very bad at singing, and the rock and roll is as corny as you can imagine. It is like not music written by people that like are artistic minded. I don't know how to like explain it. It's just like the cringiest fucking corniest dad butt rock that you'd ever hear. And I want it to be sick because Chris Jericho is pretty good at the old wrestling. I mean, like, he's all right in the ring, but the way that he can reinvent himself time after time after time is really impressive. He just kind of like latches on to certain things that he just randomly says, and he just happens to pick the right things every single time, and has lasted, I don't know, 4 fucking decades now. But they used to be an Ozzy Osbourne cover band, which is why they're called Fozzy. They were called Fozzy Osbourne, I guess. But just calling your band Fozzy is a little bit cringe because most people know Fozzy as a Muppet, you know, as a piano playing dog. But, you know, to each their own, I guess, Chris Jericho, your band fucking sucks. Okay, shit, I was really struggling with that level there near the end. Hopefully when the cameras are off and the pressure is down, I'm gonna be able to beat this thing with my eyes closed, but that wasn't the case. I'm sorry that you guys didn't get to see me finish that level. But those were the bands that I wish were better. Which bands do you wish were better? Which bands do you think have like such a sick name, really cool band members, you know, their interviews are really funny, you know, maybe they have a whole shit ton of charisma, maybe their like Instagram account or their Twitter account is like so fire, but when you listen to their music, you're like, oh man, this is brutal. And kind of the guy that inspired this whole thing is Post Malone, because that guy is the king of I wish you were better. Okay, if you enjoyed that video, hit like, remember to subscribe, and until my next upload, watch another upload.